I'm going to begin tonight by saying that most all of us know that marital separation and divorce can be absolutely gut-wrenching and incredibly painful experiences for some people. I spent the last 15 years studying how adults grieve the end of their marriage, and as a clinical psychologist and professor here at the University of Arizona, I've met with and interviewed hundreds of people who are struggling to come to terms with a divorce. And tonight I want to share with you some of the lessons we've learned about how people heal and put their lives back together after these difficult experiences. And to start telling the story of our research findings, I want to start a bit more broadly by talking about what I've come to call what now moments. For all of us, life is full of these what now moments. And essentially, they're forks in the road. They're major transitions. They're turning points. So when I was 19 years old, for example, I had a fairly major spine surgery, and it required me to rest flat on my back, more or less, for the better part of 3 months. And I remember thinking so many times, lying there sort of looking up, saying, what the hell am I going to do with my life now? And surgery is tough, of course, but it's not as tough as a lot of other things. Superstorm Sandy, Hurricane Katrina, January 8th, these are what now moments. Cancer diagnosis, retirement, the death of a spouse, a parent, a friend, and of course, divorce. Now I've come to think of these experiences very much akin to the old Atari computer game Frogger, okay? So if you don't know Frogger, well, if you don't know Frogger, that's really sad. But if you don't know Frogger, Frogger is simple. You're the frog, and your job is to navigate all these treacherous obstacles, jump on a turtle's head, and get over to the next level without becoming roadkill or maybe worse, getting eaten by an alligator. So you get the idea. Every what now moment presents obstacles and opportunities to get to the next level. These experiences challenge us to redefine ourselves, to think about where we've been, where we're going, to see the world and our place in the world in fundamentally different and new ways. And many years after my spine surgery, when I was deep into studying divorce, it finally dawned on me. My feverish interest in understanding how people put their lives back together after their marriage ends was rooted in how I dealt with my own what now moment of the surgery. Marital separation and divorce represent profound and fundamental insults to our well-being. They impact our mental health and even our physical health quite substantially. And what we do, that is how we go about the business of healing, can have a profound effect on our own lives and the lives of many, many people around us, especially if children are involved. So I'd like to spend the remainder of my time tonight trying to solve and suggest and answer the what now question for divorce. What can we do? What should we do today to start this healing process? And I want to begin by talking about something we just found out might be surprisingly bad. And I'm going to classify this in the category of what not to do now. Okay, this journal looks incredibly warm and inviting, almost like it would receive our deepest and darkest thoughts with a warm hug or embrace. But it turns out that for some people, journaling or diary writing may be among the things we really don't want to do when our marriage ends. And so we recently completed a large study in which we asked people to write about their separation experience in manners similar to the kind of diary or journal writing you do at home, in which you really express and explore your deepest emotions. And we discovered that for people who have a tendency to brood, that is, for people who have a tendency to get up in their head and to go over and over these things. I can't see you, but you know who you are out there. For those people, systematic emotional expression may be precisely the wrong thing to do. In essence, the journaling keeps these people stuck in their pain and their distress. And if in this circumstance, we're making a difficult or bad situation even worse. So in the remainder of my time now, I'm going to talk about 3 positive things that are critical to healing. These are the things to start doing today. First, get your sleep, okay? Get your sleep. Many divorcing adults report considerable disturbances in their sleep. And we recently found out that for people who are struggling emotionally, especially women, the additional presence of sleep problems serves to predict increases in resting blood pressure over the coming months. In other words, compromised sleep can pose a serious health risk when our marriage ends. Now, here's the rub. we need to figure out a way to get our Z's without knocking ourselves unconscious through drugs and alcohol, right? So I put self-medication in the category of what not to do now. And not many people emphasize the importance of sleep when we face tough times. But the first thing to do is figure out a way to get some really, really satisfying rest. We have to figure out a way to sleep like this baby. Okay, the second idea is to cultivate self-compassion. Now the phrase self-compassion is rooted in Buddhism, but I want to say you don't need to be a Buddhist to make use of this great idea. And we've defined the concept as providing compassion for yourself and your own suffering. That is looking at yourself as you look at a dear friend, providing yourself some tenderness, coming to accept your inadequacies and your failures without getting sucked deeper and deeper into your pain. Now, psychological research studies tell us that the idea or concept is really defined by three elements or three pillars. When we are self-compassionate, we are kind to ourselves. We give ourselves a break. We stop beating on ourselves. We forgive ourselves for things we may have done and things we may have not, we didn't do. Second, we're mindful. We allow our emotions to come up. We experience our emotions and we let them pass without getting sucked deeper into our pain or wallowing in our own suffering. Finally, we cultivate a sense of common humanity. That is, instead of screaming me all the time and really personalizing our pain, we locate our experience as part of a larger, more universal human experience. So I'm not the first person to be divorced, and I'm not going to be the last person. Or maybe something like, into every life, a little bit of rain must fall. Now, the ultimate beauty here is that self-compassion is a teachable concept. We can learn how to be more self-compassionate, and we can use these techniques to help us get over a painful breakup. Finally, pull yourself back together again. And one of the reasons divorce is so profoundly difficult is that it represents a tremendous insult to our self-concept. We define who we are as people in large part by our relationships, who we're with. Divorce forces certain existential questions that many of us would just as soon avoid, right? Who am I? Who are my friends? How should I spend my time? What am I going to do with myself? These are profound what now questions. But unlike our man Humpty Dumpty here, we can put our self-concept back together, and this involves help from other people, especially our loved ones who know us well. So a critical step in healing then is to reconnect to activities and with people who enhance our sense of self. And we found out, and we've seen a couple of times now, that reorganizing our sense of self, redefining who we are, seems to be the engine that drives our overall emotional healing. So if you or a loved one is facing the what now of divorce, I sincerely hope the ideas that I've talked about tonight can be helpful. If you have a tendency to get up in your head, there's some real danger in emotional journaling. Sleep like this darling baby, okay? Get your rest. Build self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Experience your emotions. Locate your experience as part of the bigger experience. And finally, pull yourself back together again. Connect to people and activities that really enhance your sense of self. These are the ingredients for healing, and ultimately, I hope, for thriving and growing. So thank you very much for having me.